Hello and welcome to The Extra Mile. I'm Linda Boudreaux. Our guest today is Linda Rose. She is the director of the Breast Center of Acadiana, and she's also the chair of the Acadiana Breast Health Symposium, which is coming up, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Linda, welcome back. It's been a while. I can't believe it's been a year since you've been here.
Yes, it has.
Maybe Linda, you should come, like, in the late spring, just to
surprise you.
Just because you do. You come kind of on an annual basis to talk about the Breast Health Symposium.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important that we talk about that. But before we get into the symposium itself, let's talk about breast health and, I guess, the other side of that, which is breast cancer.
Correct.
Okay, so what do we know these days?
Well, we know that it's still very important to be aware of any changes you might experience as far as changes in your breast. Of course, I tell women all the time, and men as well, be aware of any changes that you experience as far as your body is concerned and your medical history is concerned. So be aware of those changes. So
pay attention, pay attention to yourself.
Pay attention and don't ignore it.
Yeah, and you're worth it.
And you're worth it. And usually if you identify something in the early stages, you're going to have a much, much better outcome than if you put it off, delay it.
Yeah.
So I recommend that for, male, female. But for women particularly, we talk about any changes that you might experience as far as your breast is concerned. It could be something that you feel in your breast. It could be just a skin change. It could be a thickening of the breast. Anything. So it's important that you're aware of that you actually look in a mirror and look at your breast and look at yourself and say, okay, do I notice any changes? And it's important to do that. And
people are resistant to that, aren't they?
Oh, very much so.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's part of it, I guess, is fear and not wanting to know, but I don't think that's the whole story. Do you?
Fear is part of it, and then I don't know. I think women sometimes they feel embarrassed, and I think it's an embarrassment instead of feeling like I can look at myself in a mirror and look at my breast, and no matter what my body shape is,
it's still me.
It's still me, and I'm okay with me, and I can look at myself and so forth. I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah. So we just have to kind of let all that go
exactly,
and honor ourselves. So is breast cancer still a really big concern in our area?
It's a big concern in Louisiana, very big concern in Louisiana, because Louisiana is the second highest breast cancer mortality in the country.
Okay, so is the operative word here mortality?
Mortality.
Okay. So it's not like we necessarily have more breast cancer, we just have more people dying of it.
We have more people dying of it.
Okay.
And it could be related to different things. It could be related to the fact that women may feel something or find something and they ignore it until it's very late stage. And we do see that happening fairly frequently. And I still can't figure out, I wish I could determine why women ignore it, but they do. And usually if you let it go, then for a while, 4 months at a time or a year at a time, then by the time it's actually diagnosed, it's a very late stage and very, very difficult to treat.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. I think that another part of it has to do with the type of breast cancer that it is. So the breast cancer makeup can be various components: estrogen, progesterone, HER2/neu, all these different components in that tumor, and whether the components are there or they're not there makes the cancer either more aggressive or less aggressive. So that can make a difference as well as far as survival is concerned.
So when we're looking at the components of the tumor, which is something I just never really kind of stopped and thought about, is that something that would be environmentally induced, or is that kind of genetic, or is that the luck of the draw, or what is that all about?
Well, unfortunately, the environmental part has never been proven. We can't prove that. We don't know. However, we do know that there are studies in Louisiana, because there are certain areas in Louisiana where cancer in general, there's just a higher incidence of cancer, period.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at those areas and saying, is it related to some sort of contamination or environmental changes? So it could be that genetics can play a role. If you have two or more females in your, not just females or males, right, in your family who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, or one immediate family member who's been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, then you should further look into genetic counseling to determine if you possibly could carry the gene for breast cancer. And breast cancer and ovarian cancer share the same gene.
So that's why.
Right. So BRCA is the gene. So as we know, with Angelina Jolie coming
mm-hmm.
out recently with her story about her background and her family history, I think it was so excellent for women to hear that and to know that you can take action. Instead of fearing, I'm at a 60% increased rate of developing breast cancer. I can take prophylactic measures, and so that I don't have to live in fear my whole life.
So if you do have the bilateral mastectomy, mm-hmm. does that eliminate your risk?
It decreases your risk by over 90%.
So it's almost so it's really worth giving serious consideration to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's the question: is all that paid for through insurance? Is that covered?
It's getting better. We're probably still not where we need to be as far as insurance coverage for those types of procedures. But if it's documented that you are a gene carrier, then I think your chances of insurance paying it are much, much higher.
Because they're going to pay for something.
Right.
Exactly. The reality is.
Exactly.
So, and I know that we hadn't talking about this, but as healthcare insurance changes in the way that we approach healthcare and the way we approach health in general, mm-hmm. how does prevention fit into this? Like a mammogram is a preventive measure.
Yes,
so mm-hmm. are those continuing to be covered? Are they encouraged in terms of just third-party payments and the rolling out of the new Affordable Health Care Act?
Yeah, the Affordable Health Care Act states that screening mammograms and Pap smears, Pap studies must be covered 100%. Period.
Okay, so we don't even have to discuss it anymore. There's no copay on that.
There is no discussion.
Because I think it's a concern for because another reason I think that a lot of people don't go to get their mammogram is they can't afford it.
That's correct.
That's
correct. But I will say that, and I hate that, but I will say that there are grants, there are services that provide free screening mammograms. At our center, we happen to have a Komen grant, so we provide screening mammograms for women who are uninsured. We work closely with Lafayette Community Health Clinic and with St. Bernadette's. They both have grants that can help pay for some of these things. there are programs out there, and I think women need to know that as well.
Yeah, so don't let the fact that you're afraid that you can't afford it stop you from taking the next step.
Correct, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if they want a mammogram, do they need to go to their doctor first to get it ordered?
Well,
what if they don't have, like, a regular doctor? Yeah.
And we do have that happen. Frequently I hear women say that. That's when we usually try to direct women. If they don't have a doctor, they can't afford to go to a physician to go through a clinical exam, then we usually let women know about Lafayette Community Health Clinic and St. Bernadette's.
Okay.
Because they can get that care there. They can get it. And you really should have that clinical breast exam anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So the clinical breast exam is important, and then the mammogram. And those services work really well in our community.
If you live in Lafayette.
If you live in Lafayette, sorry, you're absolutely right.
If you live on Pecan Island, it's a little trickier.
It is. But you're absolutely right, Linda.
But still, we're working on it. We're working on it. Now, before we started taping it, you said that one of the things that has changed is we sometimes need more than just a mammogram, huh?
Yeah, what's happening throughout the country, it's been happening over about the last 3 years, and that is that because of a wonderful proponent in Connecticut, this woman who had a mammogram and then 4 months later found a lump in her breast, and when an ultrasound was performed, it was determined that she was a stage 2 breast cancer. And she was livid because she said, I have my mammograms every year. What's going on?
I do it right. I play by the rules.
I do the right thing. I play by the rules. Why hasn't anyone talked to me about this?
Yeah.
So she basically started lobbying in Connecticut. And she has a website that's rudense.org and talks about how important it is to know what your breast density is. And so she started lobbying that centers need to inform, breast imaging centers need to inform or must inform their patients of their density. So that law passed in Connecticut about 3 years ago. Since then, other studies that have been done in the country have actually demonstrated that the combination of mammography and ultrasound in women who are category 3 and 4 density, which means your tissue is dense and it's harder to read the mammogram, harder for the radiologist to read the mammogram. These women benefit significantly from the combination of the mammogram and the ultrasound.
Okay.
In 14 states now in our country, that ruling has been passed in the state legislation. And
where does Louisiana stand in that?
It has not been passed in Louisiana. We do have our facility that has adopted that protocol.
Okay, so what that means then is some facilities can choose to adopt it if they want to.
You can choose to,
but it would be mandated if our legislature ever passes
Correct
it.
Correct.
Okay,
however, the other good news is we have found that insurance is covering it.
Okay, so that's a good thing.
Because you demonstrate the reason, dense tissue.
And then your insurance will pay for it, which is, again, an important component for a lot of people.
Right.
So part of it then may be for women and men, but for people to know to ask that question, are you, if wherever you go to do your mammogram doesn't tell you your breast density, then to ask what it is, and then if you need to ask for a follow-up ultrasound.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can see we can do these things ourselves. We can.
It's empowering women.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Take your responsibility for your health.
Because it is your body.
That's right.
So anyway, once again, we're having the annual Breast Health Symposium, and I guess it's time to talk about what that is.
Yes, yes. We're so excited. This is our 20th year. 20th year. So it's a big, huge celebration. And this year, of course, the highlight of the symposium always are the beautiful breast cancer survivors who model. And this year we have 50 beautiful women who are going to be modeling clothing from Coldwater Creek, Cachet, Dee's Boutique, and La Marquise. And but these beautiful ladies, most of them never have been on the runway, and they're a little nervous, and but at the end of a day that's devoted to their celebration, having fun, getting them all fixed up with makeup and hairdos and wigs or whatever, then they're ready to get out there and celebrate. Yes.
So that's going to be the fashion show portion of it.
Yes.
And the models in the fashion show are all survivors, right?
Yes.
So how do you pick? I mean, we have lots of survivors, and many of them are totally gorgeous.
That's very true. Well, it's friends recommending friends,
Okay.
That type of thing. We have the lady who coordinates the survivorship or the models has been doing this for about 20 years, and she's been very active with survivors. In fact, she is the moderator for a breast cancer survivor support group. So she's very much in touch with the women in the community. Okay. Yeah.
And this year, do they get all that pampering and stuff like they?
They do. Oh. They get so much wonderful pampering. So we have volunteers from several of the area spas and several of the salons who are going to be there to give them extra special care.
Why is that important, do you think? I mean, we're talking about it like it's a big deal, and it is, but why is that important?
I think it's important because it, first of all, makes them feel incredibly special. I mean, how many of us really go ever and have a makeover or have our hair done and get really excited about feeling so good, about looking good and so forth. And I think it gets them ready to take that walk out onto the runway and then feel okay and special about doing this in front of 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. I mean, because there are usually 1,000 people in attendance, and that's a little scary.
And we're doing this. People are doing this while they're in treatment.
Many of them are,
or have just recently come out of treatment, and so the whole process of being treated for cancer is a bit ravishing at sometimes. It can be hard on you, can't it?
Yes.
So I think that might be a great time to feel beautiful.
Right.
When you just
I think so too. I think so too. Many of the models are bald, and some will choose to wear a wig, and some will choose not to wear a wig. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right, Linda. It can be such a difficult a process for a woman to go through.
So it validates.
It changes in a way, changes who you are, even though you don't want it to.
Yeah. So it just validates you as a person,
right.
I think.
Again,
as a valuable, wonderful, contributing person who still has life to live and stuff to offer. And I think that's really a very big deal.
I think it's a big deal too.
So the fashion show is the fun part, and it really is that celebrates survivalism at its best. But there's more that goes on at the symposium than the fashion show.
Right. So we do have vendors who are representatives of virtually many of the different healthcare facilities in our community. I think it's a great time to feature the great healthcare we have in our own
And we do.
community.
We're very fortunate with that, aren't we?
Very fortunate. We have 2 cancer centers. We have oncologists and radiation oncologists and the whole gamut, great surgeons, breast surgeons, reconstruction, or plastic surgeons. So we have so many wonderful representation in our community. So those facilities are there to hand out information about the services that they provide. So at 5 o'clock the doors open, and you can go through and visit all the different booths from all these wonderful vendors. And then the program actually then starts at 6 o'clock. So doors open at 5, visit the vendors, get some great educational information, and then the actual program starts at 6.
And the program is?
The program this year, we're so happy to have Blue Rolfus is our mistress of ceremonies again this year.
She is so gracious.
She is so gracious and has been a wonderful part of this symposium for a number of years. And then this year, our featured speaker happens to be one of my best friends from high school, which is really fun.
Are you like the hookup person here?
Well, Joan Cronin, who was the women's athletic director at the University of Tennessee for 30 years and built an incredible women's athletic program there, worked with Pat Summitt and so forth, and has done so much to inspire women athletes as well as women in general, is going to be our featured speaker.
Okay.
Joan is very interested in supporting causes related to cancer, as she lost her husband to pancreatic cancer 2 years ago.
So she's very tuned in
Yes, she
to
is.
the whole process.
Yes, but she's very energetic, and she's going to be a great motivational speaker.
Okay, and so this year, you know, a lot of times the speakers are survivors themselves, and they speak about whatever their particular topic may be, whether it's nutrition or just living life. But she's really going to just motivate us, huh?
Because our theme this year is high on life.
Okay, and so we will be.
We'll be high on life, yeah.
Okay, when is it?
October the 9th at the Cajun Dome Convention Center, and tickets are available at the Cajun Dome ticket box office or Ticketmaster.
Okay,
Yeah.
and tickets are
$10.
$10, and this used to be free, but now we charge $10. Because why?
Well, because the bigger this event has become, and it has grown every year, then it becomes a little more difficult to
Feed everybody.
and take care of everybody. So we felt like we had. Plus, last year we are happy to say that our organization is now providing a scholarship for a nursing student. So we provided the scholarship last year. The young lady who was awarded the scholarship last year, it is awarded for 2 years.
So she's eligible to get it again this year?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that means we definitely have to come up with the money, because I know that's part of her financial planning.
She's counting on that.
But you know, I think it's really good that a public community event like this, which really is doing a lot of good in and of itself, can also help to support a scholarship to kind of help the next generation of nurses or professionals in the field. I mean, it's just kind of like it's like a full circle sort of thing.
Yes, it is.
So it's a really great idea.
Yes, it is.
So the last couple of minutes that we have, I just kind of want to bring everything together in terms of, I guess, overall well-being. Are we getting a handle on cancer, treatment, cancer research, cancer, anything? Are we where we were 20 years ago? Are we?
Well, we've come a long, long way. Actually in the last 15 years, because even though I talked about Louisiana being second in the nation as far as breast cancer mortality, actually survival rates have increased significantly over the last 15 years. And of course that's related to the awareness. It's related to the real focus on the screening prevention, and I think that has made a huge difference. The research that's going on right now is pretty amazing, and from targeting the specific cancers and being able to treat what you're targeting specifically, instead of sort of just guessing with chemo.
Right, and kind of getting everything.
So I think that's going to be really huge in the future. And also just learning more about the genetics piece of it.
It's pretty fascinating, isn't it?
It's very fascinating. Right now we have the 2 genes, the BRCA genes that have been identified, but there are probably thousands that are not. So there's great excitement in the research world.
You know, so it's kind of fun to be able to sit here and talk about breast cancer with a certain optimism and hope for the future.
Very much so.
So again, really quickly in the last kind of few seconds that we have, the symposium is when?
October the 9th. Doors open at 5 p.m. Program starts at 6. Tickets are available, $10, available at the Cajun Dome box office or Ticketmaster.
And anyone can go. You don't have to be a survivor. You don't have to be, or
No.
a family member or anybody.
It's a
You
great
just-
celebration for anyone. We have males, females, children, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for watching The Extra Mile.